We investigated. Now, one of the most important questions we asked, and maybe you may want to give us some idea. Why did Dr. Besigye agree to have this money to keep it when he was not the party treasurer general? Because you know you can create problems for yourself. If you are not the party general, party treasurer, why do you accept money and keep it and then later transfer it to your shop from where it was paid back to FDC? Why? We are not demonizing Besigye. We're asking critical questions. If somebody wants to go to court, the court will ask these questions. It is also important, Madam, when Besigye was accused of rape some years ago back, he did not say a word. The lawyers said the man who accused, or the girl who accused him of having been raped is the one to produce evidence. He did not utter any word. And the court made a judgment in favor of Besigye. So the person who insisted on this money issue is KizzaBesigye. So we are saying, that's why we have said that he is responsible for showing, for adducing evidence. We are not lawyers, we are elders, but even elders have some legal brains. If you have evidence that we were bribed, please bring it out. That's the first thing. It is you who must prove that we are bribed. I have been in the public life for many years. By the way, some of you may not know that I was the secretary to the NRM external wing in Nairobi, and the secretary to the peace talks in Nairobi between Museveni and Okello before President Moya and Kibaki. I have lived in this country in the last 38 years. Has anybody ever said that Nabwiso is corrupt? My friend is here, he can also make a comment on that. Now, so for us, we are trying to advise the people not to buy rumors, because rumors can be very destructive. We did not get any money from him. I bought this suit some years ago. My children bought it for me. My children, I've told them, my legacy, I don't want them to spoil the name of Nabwiso. Nabwiso stands for something. It makes a man with small eyes but foresighted. So those who believe that we did show the work can still call for another committee. They can still request for another committee to satisfy their assertions. We are also aware that even World Bank reports have been criticized by different scholars and ordinary analysts. So our report is not perfect, and none of us who wrote it is perfect. None of us has claimed to be perfect or to be holy. We live on earth, we don't live in heaven. I now wanted to turn to some of the allegations which have been made against us. The first one is that we doctored the report in favor of Mafabi. All that he dictated to us what we should write about him. This allegation came from some newspapers, allegedly from Ibrahim, Honorable Ibrahim Uganda, Ssemujju, Honorable Elias Lukwago, and Dondi Nyanjura. The MP for Kira, the Lord Mayor of Kampala, and the Deputy Mayor of Kampala, respectively. We believe that those 4 people are entitled to their opinions about us. But it is still their responsibility to prove that we don't have independent minds. This gentleman has introduced me and him. This is a former minister. I'm a former professor, former vice chancellor of Soga University, former MP for Kagoma County in the 7th Parliament. I'm one of the 50 people who rejected the 5 million shillings to remove presidential term limits from the Constitution. I'm the only one who presented the Rwakitura Plan of 1993, where 77 people sat and said that they wanted to rule Uganda for 50 years. And we have gone for only 38 years, so 12 more. If not, another 50 years. Dr. KizzaBesigye, the first president of FDC, whom we have high respects for, described our report as not being worthy the paper it was written on. So according to him, even in the paper we wrote on was useless, not worth reading. He further asserted that, 1, he gave us the serial numbers of the new notes of shillings 300 million, which Honorable Mafabi asked him to keep in his house in Kasangati for FDC election agents. He also said that we did not resolve the unresolved data money, and that we did not inquire into the current accounts and the financial records of the party using forensic methods. That in Honorable Mafabi's statement to us, he never mentioned the shillings 280 million which he gave to Honorable Amuriat. He also said that we parroted. A parrot is that bird which
Nkusu.
Nkusu. We parroted Honorable Mafabi's lies that the shillings 300 million was for party agents. And that lastly, he said that we selected and inaccurately recorded what he told us. Our response is as follows. Our terms of reference advised us not to engage in witch hunting games. If Honorable Mafabi had deposited the shillings 300 million elsewhere, if, for example, I had hidden it in my house, would I have gone out to say, I have this money? Would Dr. Besigye have known
No.
and initiated this saga? Additionally, Dr. Besigye never disclosed to us the name of his informer from State House about the dirty money, as he called it. It is also true that Honorable Amuriat admitted to us that he indeed obtained shillings 280 million from Mafabi for his presidential campaign. Honorable Mafabi was authorized to borrow money by the party, for the party. And Honorable Mafabi complied. He also tendered some bank papers which he showed that he withdrew money from his own bank account in Chambo. On the other hand, Dr. Besigye did not prove to us that that money came from State House. I think according to the Monitor today, Dr. Besigye has shown the serial numbers of the new notes of money which he recorded, which he says came from State House. But it is also true that the State House pays money to its clients, suppliers of this or that, goods and services, and that money still ends up in commercial banks. It is also true that the money that Nandala took to Dr. Besigye was not the same money that Dr. Besigye gave back to FDC headquarters. The rules we identified, we said that Dr. Besigye's refusal to campaign for Amuriat in 2020 to 21 disadvantaged other FDC candidates. But in his lengthy report here, he did not make any comment on that matter. Nor did he respond to our observations on the need for the party to continue participating in elections while it can also organize other activities to pressurize the government to bring political and socio-economic reforms. He did not say in this report, this paper, publication, anything about the growing disagreements between the Katonga group and Najanankum. But Katonga is not independent. It's not a breakaway group. It is a part and parcel of Najanankum. Najanankum is in charge of implementing the work plan of the party. Our recommendations to make FDC stronger. We made 8 recommendations to help the party grow. The following needs. We said there is need for reconciliation, tolerance, grooming younger leaders, amending the FDC constitution in some parts, developing party alliances in Uganda. In Kenya, for example, they usually have 2 presidential candidates only. In the last election, Ruto had several political parties which united and voted for him. Raila Odinga also had 3 or 4 political parties in Azimio alliance which voted for him. We have not yet reached there in Uganda because we have had military governments from 1966 to present. The day we will also think about forming political alliances to fight against dictatorial rule in this country, we will thank God. We also recommended that a book should be written on the history of FDC. And the people who have contributed to the party, to the growth of the party, should be highlighted. And we believe that President Besigye should be highlighted in that book because of the sacrifices he has made for Uganda and for the party. That is why we are sad that the president is undermining his own legacy. And we want to appeal to him on our bended knees that he does not do that. We also said that management of African opposition parties is no easy task. Not everybody in FDC is a manager or can manage an institution. Yes, I have been a vice chancellor of a university. But if you put me in a political party to manage it, I may not be able to manage. And we also, there is a book I have come with here. No, it is here. We showed the books that we read to prepare this report. And let me mention them. Not a book and some books and papers. There is already a paper called Forum for Democratic FDC, Democratic Change, Historical Tracking. It has not been published yet. We also have additional suggestions to the committee from Besigye. We have Kalinaki Daniel's book entitled KizzaBesigye and His Unfinished Revolution. We want that revolution to be completed. That is to create a people's government and not a government of a few people. One professor from Busoga wrote a book called In Defense of Besigye's Basic Human Rights. And Sabit Jack gave us a book, a paper called My Thoughts About the Problems in FDC. I do not mention the others, but what I wanted to explain is that some people may be whispering messages, wrong messages, to KizzaBesigye to destroy his legacy in this country. Lastly, I want to stress this. We have only 30 months left to have general elections in January 2026. One party has already identified 2 presidential candidates. The other parties have not identified their presidential candidates. So we should not waste time bickering on things which we cannot prove. We should focus on what is positive, what Ugandans want. They want a change in power. And therefore, I want you to help us, help FDC, not to waste time, valuable time, but to bring out the current problems this country is facing. Our population growth tells us that in 27 years' time, Uganda will have 103 million people. Kampala is 5 million today. In the next 20 years, it will be 10 or 15 million. What do we do with the population growth? Matia Kasaija, the Minister of Finance, told us in 2018-19, when he was reading the budget, that Uganda's economy, 69% of the economy, is in the hands of foreigners. Who is building these high scrapers in Kampala? Who has brought all sorts of foreigners here? Our system is pouring out 500,000 people every year who cannot get employment. And you know who is in charge of education. The other problem is that we have refused, for example, to promote cottage industries in every home. Instead, we worship investors.